and then we're going to examine the results of the World War. Also known as the Great War, this war began in 1914 after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. He was the heir to the Austrian throne. His murder catapulted into a war across Europe that lasted until 1918. During the conflict, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire fought under the flag the Central Powers. They fought against Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, Romania, and the United States, who were known as the Allied powers. World War One was known by a number of different names. Other names for World War One include the War to End All Wars, the War of the Nations, World War One, and the Great War. World War One had many causes. Alliance and politics is the first one that we'll look at. In the years leading up to the war, the nations of Europe were constantly jockeying for power and making alliances. Germany made an alliance with Austria-Hungary and Italy in 1818. These countries all agreed to protect each other in the event they were attacked by France. However, Italy then went and made a secret alliance with France, saying that they would not aid Germany. In response to Germany's alliances, France and Russia established an alliance in 1892. In 1904, Britain and France signed an agreement. Later, the Triple Entente was formed between France, Britain, and Russia in 1907. Germany felt that this powerful alliance surrounding them posed a real threat to their existence and power in the region. Essentially, Europe was divided into two camps by 1914. The Triple Entente described the formal agreement or understanding between Russia, France, Great Britain, and the United Kingdom. This meant that if any one of these countries were at war with anyone else, all of these countries would come to that country's aid. The second camp, the Triple Alliance, was an agreement between Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. It was formed on May 20, 1882, and renewed periodically until it expired in 1915 during World War One. Germany and Austria-Hungary had been closely allied since 1879. As we saw earlier, Italy tended to switch sides periodically. Here we have a picture of what the alliance system looked like. So we have the United Kingdom, France, on the western side. We had Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy in the middle, and we had the Russian Empire to the north. As you can see, the alliance was virtually surrounded by the Triple Entente. Another one of the causes of World War One was imperialism. Imperialism is when a country expands its influence and power into a large empire. Some European countries, such as France and Britain, had created worldwide empires and had become very rich. And of course, other European countries, such as Russia and Germany, wanted to create their own vast empires. This caused competition and conflict between many of the countries throughout the world. Another factor that has been attributed to the outbreak of World War One was the arms race. As each country increased their spending on their armies, their enemies would too. This resulted in a cycle of major growth of power as well as continuing to worsen the relationship between the countries. The Anglo-German naval race was a race to build ships in Britain and Germany and added to the tensions within Europe. In the late 1800s, the United Kingdom had the largest navy in the world. After the British threatened to stop shipping along the German coastline in 1897, Germany increased its navy. Britain saw Germany's expansion as a threat and in turn started to build more ships and make them even more powerful. The public supported their country and both countries continued to spend more and build faster. In 1912, however, Germany decided to spend more on their army instead because it saw the size of Russia's army as more of a threat than the British army. The first Balkan crisis was another example of European countries trying to expand or practice imperialism. So in 1870, Austria-Hungary took control of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Because remember, One of the theory of imperialism is that a stronger country takes control of a weaker country. Serbia also wanted control of Bosnia-Herzegovina due to its relationship with the people in that area. Austria-Hungary did not want Serbia becoming so powerful in the region, so they did not want Austria-Hungary to get control of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Russia offered to support Austria-Hungary's decision to declare Bosnia-Herzegovina an independent nation. This was unusual because Serbia and Russia were friends, so Serbia was wondering, why are you backing my enemy? We should be friends, so you should be backing me. But Russia wanted Austria-Hungary to support one of Russia's plans in the region. So because Russia wanted Austria-Hungary support in something else, they backed Austria-Hungary wanting Bosnia-Herzegovina, so in the future they can call on Austria-Hungary for help. Austria-Hungary announced Bosnia-Herzegovina's independence without honoring its agreement with Russia. Remember now, Russia previously was supporting Austria-Hungary, and in the midst of everything, Austria-Hungary turned their back on Russia. Russia, of course, was furious and prepared to declare war against Austria-Hungary. Russia decided against war because Germany said it would support Austria-Hungary. So remember, the system of alliance now is coming into play. So if Austria-Hungary was at war, Germany would then support Austria-Hungary. Russia was embarrassed. It failed to assert its power. Then the mistrust and the anger added to a really simmering tension in the region. So Russia didn't bother with the war because they didn't want to get into a war with Austria-Hungary and Germany all at the same time. The straw that broke the camel's back, the spark that ignited the flame, the final thing that led to the outbreak of World War One was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife. He was the heir to the Austrian throne. He was assassinated by a 19-year-old Serbian who wanted Bosnia to be free from Austria Hungary's control. As a result, quick and fast, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia and World War One began. This brings everything full circle as the system of alliance is now going to come in play. So if Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia, it means that Germany, Italy, whoever Austria-Hungary was in an alliance with are going to back Austria-Hungary. The same way Serbia and Russia were friends. So if Serbia is at war, it means that Russia is at war. And Russia, who was also a part of the Triple Entente, would see France and Britain coming to their aid. Our syllabus doesn't require us to delve into World War One. We don't have to look at the different battles or anything like that. It just asks us for the causes and the effects. So let us look at the effects of the war on Europe first of all. So one, a League of Nations was formed in 1920. Europe hoped to create and maintain one alliance. If all the countries agreed to be friends, then there would be no war. But there were some crucial decisions that were taken at the first conference of the League of Nations. So let's start out with those concerning Germany, who they declared to be the guilty party. First, Germany had to publicly accept that she was responsible for the outbreak of the war. Germany lost about 12% of her lands. She was made a smaller country. She was stripped of her colonial possessions. Her colonies were placed under the control of England and France. She was completely disarmed. Her navy and her army were significantly reduced, and she was not allowed to manufacture any more arms. She was also forced to pay a huge sum of money for the damages that were done to the property of the participating countries. Such payment is known as an indemnity. So, like we said earlier, Russia was declared the guilty party. According to the League of Nations, it was because of Germany's actions. That's why World War One broke out. So these were the terms that Germany was forced to accept by the League of Nations. There was the usual destruction of property and loss of lives that occur whenever there's a war. Britain suffered the least. She lost a little less than 1 million of her men. Russia lost more than 2 million of her people. Germany lost almost 2 million. France lost nearly 1.5 million, while Austria-Hungary lost 1.25 million. This represented a loss of valuable manpower. Repairing the damages of a war cost millions of dollars. These are serious figures for countries involved. The cost of this particular war was estimated to be at about $200 billion. As the world struggled to come to terms with the massive loss and debt, a number of banks and lending agencies went bankrupt, while countries everywhere were plunged into a recession. Austria and Hungary were separated; they became two different nations. Germany and Italy reacted bitterly to their defeat. Their next leaders, Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini, were cruel dictators. Russia staged a revolution in 1917. They became a communist country. Of the war in the Caribbean. The United States bought the Virgin Islands for $25 million. Guyana was forced to increase its rice production to sell to the rest of the Caribbean because of the disruption in trade between the Caribbean and Europe. More than 15,000 men from the British West India Regiment volunteered to help Britain fight in the war. About two-thirds of these came from Jamaica. Every colony in the British West Indies helped to make up the remaining one-third. Despite its distance from active combat, Jamaica was not spared the economic hardships of the Great War. Jamaica reeled from shortage of food, petroleum, manufactured goods, and sharp increases in food prices. Wheat, which was mainly produced by the warring nations, was particularly hard to obtain and led to shortages in flour, bread, and other basic food items. Imports were curtailed, and difficulties being experienced by the local agricultural sector were exacerbated by hurricanes in 1915, 1916, and 1917.